Welcome back to Smart Pigs. Still with us is Dr. Edward Kariuki, and we're still talking about internal parasites. Many farmers, Daktari, when they are faced with internal parasites such as roundworms or even tapeworms, they're advised to do deworming. So at which point do you deworm effectively? Is it before? Is it after?
It's very good for farmers to know that they're supposed to deworm their pigs and piglets. So if we start with the piglets, and I have to say that piglets are very vulnerable to worms. So the farmer must take all measures to make sure that their piglets are not lost to worms. When we deal with piglets, the first time that you deworm them is just before you wean them, or just around the time of weaning them, because the worms are a major source of stress to pigs and more so to piglets. And we want to deworm them so that when we wean these piglets, they won't suffer the stress of weaning, the stress of eating purely solid feed, and also the stress of having worms. So we want to eliminate the stress of worms so that at weaning, their stress levels are brought down, and we enhance the survival rates of weaner piglets. So just immediately after weaning, they should be dewormed, and after every 2 to 3 months. It should not exceed 3 months. And I would also encourage farmers. We have laboratory services, and they are able to estimate the worm burden in your pigs. So you can also make use of that. Every so often, get a sample of the solid waste, take it to the lab, and let them tell you about the worm burdens and the types of worms that you are having. That will also guide you on when to deworm. Worm levels are very high, so that you should deworm, and when the worm levels are manageable, or they are managed, and that time there is no worry about the worms. Again, sows, usually these are the breeders. We want to make sure they don't have worms before they go in, before they are served, and because we don't want to interfere with the period between service and farrowing. Farrowing is the term we use for pigs giving birth. So because we don't want to cause any stress, maybe holding them to inject, because that one can come with related problems, we want to deworm the pigs or the sows before they are bred. The gilts are young female pigs that have not been bred. We deworm them before they are served, so that between service and the time they give birth and rear their piglets, their worm burden is low as possible. And then for the general herd of pigs, just maintain a 2 to 3 months deworming schedule. So that will maintain a very low worm burden. In fact, it's almost impossible to say that you have completely cleared the worms in your farm. So our aim is to bring the level of worms as low as possible, so that they don't cause any significant losses.
And are there various methods of deworming?
Yes, there are various methods of deworming, and this one the farmer can use either depending on the availability of the drugs, and depending also on the skills of the farmer, and also depending on how able the farmer is to pay for a vet to come and do the services of deworming their pigs. The farmer can decide to use dewormers that they can put in their water or in their feeds, or they can decide to call a vet and do an injection for the worms. So we have different drugs available for that, whether the ones you can use in water and even the ones that you can use in feed. There are drugs, there are injectable drugs for deworming that also deals with some of the external parasites, and there are those that deals with internal parasites alone. So there are different medicines and different methods available for the farmer depending on various factors. But I would say an injection is better, because it makes sure that the pig gets the full dose. Sometimes you'll put it in water and the pig does not consume the full dose. So you might find that it didn't work out as well as you intended it to be.
We've had stories or rather instances of where farmers just buy the drugs and then just deworm themselves.
Yeah, there are, and I would say I would discourage that unless a farmer has some form of training in handling the drugs, administering the drugs, because once in a while as a vet I have encountered situations where a farmer decides to go and buy the drugs and come maybe and inject if it's an injectable, and sometimes they give an overdose and they lose the animal. Sometimes also they give an underdose, and an underdose brings a problem of resistance because the worms will become exposed to that kind of drug over and over again in small amounts that don't kill it, but it sensitizes them to become resistant to the same drugs. So I would discourage that, especially with injectables. It is good to get the services of a vet, let them come and administer the drugs. The option that the farmer may have to do it themselves, go to the retail shop, the agrovet, get drugs that you can administer in feed and in water, and get the instructions as well from the attendant or even from the sachet, so that you know I'm going to put such an amount in the feed or in water for this number of days. So that is easier because it's easy to administer and it's a little bit straightforward. So we won't have the incidences of overdosing or underdosing. And again, medicines that are administered in water or feed, they are a little bit safer because they don't go into the blood directly. Other than those you inject, they go into the blood directly. And if you've done like an overdose, you are more likely to have problems with the same. You can even very easily lose the animal.
Now, Daktari, there's something you've mentioned, that parasites can reoccur, or rather they can multiply. Why is this the case?
One reason is because of inefficient deworming. In that I mean either you subject the worms to a minimal dose that does not kill them so that they continue to thrive. That is just one of the causes. The other causes is it is just so hard to completely eradicate worms. I say that because the worms are in the digestive system, and as much as you deworm, the pigs are not aware that they need to control pigs. It's the farmer who is controlling them. So you'll find the pig passing solid waste, stepping on it, going to the sleeping area, going to the feeding area, and then eating from the floor. So the cycle continues. They pass the eggs in the solid waste, then they eat the same eggs from the floor. So it's completely difficult to get rid of everything. So after the whole cycle, the eggs come in again and they multiply again in the intestines, then they are passed again. So the cycle is continues on and on. So what we do is actually minimize the burden of the worms, because it's very difficult for you to completely do away with the worms. So what the farmer can do in that case is to do regular deworming, so that the worms don't build up so much.
What effect do these internal parasites, the tapeworms and roundworms, have on the meat quality?
Some of these worms, they are actually able to penetrate the digestive system and migrate to other tissues, the liver, some of the muscles, and this is where we consume them. Other than just contamination with the environment where humans can also get them, we also get them from the tissues in the animal. Some of the worms inhabit the muscles, and if not properly cooked, or if it finds its way to the table not very well cooked, then we eat the same stages of the worms. So they come into our body and they have the same effects as the ones they have in the pigs. And in specific, I would like to talk about the pork tapeworm that is very critical in terms of meat quality, pork quality. So the pork tapeworm has two hosts. One that we can call the pig because it's the primary host, and the human beings, it's also an intermediary host. So if we as humans eat undercooked meat from a pig that had the tapeworm, it comes then to our system and it goes to the intestines. It is also able to penetrate the walls of the intestines, and it grows in a different organ. And the worst case scenario, it can move all the way to the brain and it grows there. And in that case, you'll find yourself or you find someone having nervous signs that are similar to epilepsy, shaking, uncontrolled movement, and sometimes even falling, because it migrates to the brain and it grows there.
That's shocking.
It shouldn't scare us as long as we are doing good deworming.
So even what would you advise for any farmer who's watching out there and is struggling with controlling internal parasites?
I'll say we have vets around. For farmers, we are ready to support them. It is good to get professional advice and professional services from the vet. Us as the farmers out there, please let's make good use of the vets, and let us have a regular checkup so that a vet can come to your farm and just do a checkup. As I was saying earlier also, let us take good use of laboratory services. That is something that farmers rarely make use of. And also hygiene, observe hygiene. Make sure that as you construct your pen, it drains easily away from the sleeping area and away from the feeding area, because pigs are very interesting animals. They demarcate a feeding and sleeping area from the area that is dirty, that they pass waste. So make sure that waste does not drain into the sleeping and feeding area. In that way, we are going to reduce contamination, and subsequently we are going to manage the worms easily.
Thank you so much, Dr. for your insights on internal parasites. Yes, we'll have you back for external parasites. We hope you have learned a lot when it comes to internal parasites and how you can control them in your farm. Always remember that it is the simple that produces the marvelous. Stay tuned for the next episode of Smart Pigs. I'm your host, Esther Gishuki.